I, female, have been married to my husband, Jeff, for a year. He has a daughter, tween, with his deceased wife. When I first met Jeff, it was obvious that he was struggling as a single parent. For my stepdaughter's birthday, he'd usually get a cake from the bakery. This has been the case since her mom passed away. I wanted to bake her a birthday cake for her upcoming birthday, which was last week, as a gesture to show some motherly love and support. Jeff agreed, and he told me what his daughter's favorite flavors were, what she likes, and so on. I baked the cake in the flavor she liked, and the icing she liked, but one thing needed to be added, and that was the blueberries. I couldn't include them because I went to the nearest store, and they didn't have them. I was running out of time and couldn't get them, so I just left the cake as is, thinking it wouldn't be a big deal. The party started, and Jeff was busy taking care of everything else. He then came into the kitchen to ask to see the cake before bringing it out. I showed it to him, and he got so angry when he saw no blueberries on top. He went on and on about how I didn't fully commit to making the cake, and that he had trusted me to take care of it, and said he should have just ordered one from the bakery. We got into an argument, and he ended up taking it and throwing it in the trash can. I was stunned as he said, "You know what? Forget it. I'll get one from the bakery." I blew up and screamed at him. He told me to stop, but I went upstairs, got dressed, and left. He tried getting me to stay, but I refused and went to my parents. He later called and texted about how I overreacted and hurt him and my stepdaughter by leaving. He also said I created this situation by not properly making the birthday cake just because I didn't put blueberries on top. I refused to respond, but my parents say he was justified since he must have felt pressure from the stress of making his daughter happy on her birthday. He keeps trying to speak to me, but I don't respond. Am I the idiot? Did I overreact? Not the idiot. He threw away a homemade cake because there were no blueberries on it? And you think you overreacted? Lady, wake up. Has he had explosive reactions like this in the past? Because that's kind of scary. If he reacts this way over missing blueberries, what happens when something really goes wrong? OP, this. I get it's his daughter's birthday, but he threw away the cake. He then tries to get you to stay, to have you there to blame, and says you overreacted. I'm sorry, this guy has some serious control and anger issues he needs to work through. I bet you he was angry OP left so that she wasn't around for him to blame. You know, those offhand comments like, "Oh, this is a quick store-bought cake because we had a little snafu with the other cake." Or, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sweetie. I had to get another cake because stepmom didn't make the right one." He probably still made those comments, especially in her absence, so she can't defend herself. And did the cake he bought have blueberries on it? And did he even buy her a cake? Or did he just blame OP for there being no cake at all? He could have even told his daughter that her stepmom threw out the cake and refused to come to her party because of her. I truly could see a man like this doing something like that. From his victim's blamey phone call, it's clear to see he isn't afraid to be manipulative. Like, I'm sorry, but he can go get a new cake, but he couldn't go get blueberries to put on top? This was never about the blueberries, in my opinion. This was a massive bomb just waiting to go off, and for some reason, the blueberries were what detonated it. What's the bet that the cake was the one OP's stepdaughter's mother used to make, and it was never going to be just right, even if it did have blueberries on it? I wonder if the parents were abusive, and that's why OP also ended up with an abusive husband. That would also explain why they excused the husband's behavior. He's already verbally abusing you, humiliating you, and treating you like crap after only 1 year. His behavior is completely insane. I cannot imagine being married to someone who would ever treat me this way. You need to annul this marriage immediately and start making plans to leave. This is not going to get better. This happened 3 weeks ago. On Monday, as usual, I, 29 male, woke up at 6 a.m. to go to work. I was taking a shower and everything was okay, but as I stepped out of the shower, I fell down. I touched the floor and it was greasy, so my husband, 32, came out of our room with the camera recording everything and laughed out loud. I wanted an explanation, and he said it was just a prank. He had spread butter on the floor for me to fall down because his brilliant friends thought it would be a great idea to play pranks on their spouses and to post them online and go viral. One of the morons even pushed his pregnant wife into a pool. I was speechless, kind of in shock. I felt insecure and vulnerable. I was thinking, come on, you're supposed to have my back, not make fun of me. So I didn't argue. I didn't say anything. I just left for work. He even told me before leaving, you might be angry now, but I promise I will compensate you tonight. Throughout the day, I started analyzing the event. I found it childish, disrespectful, and blatantly stupid. I mean, thank heavens nothing terrible happened. But what if I hadn't grabbed the curtain and my head or neck hit the bathtub? I could be dead. I'm not joking. A severe head injury can be life-threatening. I would never risk his integrity like that because he's my husband. I respect him and I love him. He's usually very wise and smart, but this time he acted like a stupid teenager. So that day, I didn't feel like seeing my husband. I went to my dad's to cool down, but I haven't gone home in 3 weeks because I'm still angry at him. I asked my dad to go and pack my things. At first, my husband didn't want to let him in, but he ended up allowing it. I haven't even answered his calls, and I'm seriously reconsidering our relationship. We've been married for 3 years. He's caring and loving and has never done something as irresponsible and stupid as this. He's been bombarding my phone with apology messages and begging me to be back, but I don't know. To be honest, I don't look at him the same way I did before. So now everyone but my dad is telling me that it's time to forgive because he didn't do it to hurt me, and perhaps he didn't see beyond consequences and think it could be life-threatening, that I'm overreacting because it's just a prank. But this isn't some 6-year-old child who doesn't see beyond the prank. This guy's a doctor. He knows what a head injury could mean. So I don't know, guys. Am I really overreacting? Everyone seems to agree that I am. Even my mom does. Yeah, I know that he might not have done it hoping I would die, but it's just so disrespectful. And there was a chance it could be life-threatening. My friend died from falling in the shower and hitting his head on the floor. Your husband could have killed you for views. So not only are you not the idiot, but if roles were reversed and a girl I was married to decided to do anything for TikTok clout, I'd reconsider my marriage. And I'm talking lesser offenses, such as, I don't know, something less dangerous than spreading butter on the bathroom floor. He did this after his friend pushed his pregnant wife in a pool and still thought it was hilarious? I'd be so done, whether it's cake smashing in a bride's face or this messed up crap. Sweetie, do not give him a second chance. He was laughing at your pain. This should be an instant deal breaker. Frankly, what the husband did was assault. I'm inclined to report him to his practice or hospital. People like him should not be in healthcare. Sorry, wait. The husband is a doctor? OMG. I missed that he's a doctor in the first read-through. What in the ever-living heck? I'm an ERRN, and I'm horrified. So I'm changing my earlier musings. Run and don't look back. That a physician would do this is a whole new level of scary. Don't listen to anyone who says forgive him. They're saying that because a doctor is a good catch. Yeah, catch and release. There's something seriously wrong with him and his friends. If it were me, I would seriously worry if he wasn't trying to kill me and make it look like a prank gone wrong. My son is in college, 19. I'm going to be blunt. He was a nightmare to try to teach things to. I would sit him down and show him how to do his laundry, for example. He would leave halfway through and then screw up when doing it himself. I would show him again, and he would still mess it up. He broke the vacuum since he refused to pick up the large stuff. It was for everything, and I believe it was to get out of chores. We once got into a huge argument since I made him clean up the whole kitchen after he spilled the garbage all over the floor. It didn't rip, he didn't tie the top. I got a call today about how I didn't teach him to balance a checkbook. I tried. He's ended up overspending on his credit card and will now have credit card debt. He asked for the money to pay it off, since it's my fault he messed up. I told him no. This started an argument, and I told him it's not my fault he messed up, and he can't blame me. He called me a jerk and called his grandparents, and they're on my back now. Edit. Balancing a checkbook is when your transactions match on the bank statement and you're not overspending money you don't have. Not the idiot. He's playing you. He has the internet. Tell him to Google. Do not keep placating him. He's still looking for skeins to be responsible for his life. You don't have to balance a checkbook like it's some kind of magical task. If your budget for the month is $500, then everything you spend in the month has to add up to less than $500. This isn't magic. It's addition, and is taught in elementary schools. Tell grandparents they can pay off the credit card if they're so concerned. Just make sure you don't. He's 19, and it's time for him to grow up. If you bail him out, he'll never change. And then in a few months, you'll have to bail him out again, and again, and again. In this instance, you are not the idiot, but this sounds like years of dysfunction. And did you ever try to find out if there were underlying causes, possible reasons for his frustration and his struggle to learn things? Ultimately, how your 19-year-old acts and spends their money is not your fault, but this also sounds like only the tip of a massive iceberg of issues. Has your son ever been tested for ADHD? Or have you just spent the last 19 years telling him how messed up he is? Maybe there is a reason for this behavior. It's obvious OP wrote off the child years ago when he was in fact still a child because he couldn't meet OP's standards. Whatever happened to empathy and understanding when teaching people? LOL. There's so much being left out here. It sounds like you have a crap relationship with your son. The chores themselves are not the issue here. You could be a bad teacher. Ever think of that? Came to say this. Why do you hate him? You sound so angry through the whole thing. When you tried to teach him, did you only do it once and immediately gave up when he didn't do it perfectly? I'm 29. I live alone, and I still can't do laundry the way my Nana taught me. As others have said, did you get him tested? Did you even have the tiniest amount of patience? Or did you scream he's a screw-up every time and give up? Something about this screams a bad parent. I owe my brother around $300. He fronted me some money for a family vacation and said I could pay him back in a 3-paycheck month. My husband and I are hosting a small dinner with the family members, and my brother's family arrived on Monday to stay through the weekend. His 2 kids, toddler and young grammar schooler, are generally well behaved, but they're still kids, so I told him to keep them out of the bonus room, currently half finished, and my craft room. Y'all know where this is going, so I'll just cut to the chase. I came home yesterday to find the kids splayed out on the living room floor, surrounded by art supplies in ruined condition. They were finger painting with my gouache, and it completely cross-contaminated the colors, drawn on my good watercolor paper with Copic markers, completely crushing the tips, and ruined or dirtied several items that my friend had bought me from Korea. I confronted my brother, who was casually watching TV, and he told me that he didn't let the kids go in the craft room. He had gone in himself and grabbed them just a couple of things to entertain themselves with. He agreed to buy me replacements until I started tallying up the cost, then backtracked and said the price was BS, and started insisting that most of the stuff was still in usable condition. I said, fine, you don't have to replace anything, but you can forget about that vacation money. He snapped at me not to argue in front of the kids. I said, who's arguing? Sounds like the conversation is over. Now he wants me to pay the vacation money immediately and work out the cost of the art supplies afterward. I feel like he's just going to try to haggle me or is going to replace my stuff with Crayola and call it even. Not the idiot. Debt is debt. That's why a ledger shows both credits and debts. You and your brother have a ledger of transactions between you. He gave you $300. You were at negative $300. It is totally justified to now use the art supply debt that he owes you to calculate your debt. Figure out what needs to be replaced. Replace it. Take a photo of the receipts and text it to your brother. If it comes out to $325, tell him he owes you $25. If it comes out to $275, send him the $25 you owe. You are the idiot. You can't just decide to cancel a separate debt, especially since there hasn't been an agreement on what's owed. Honestly, the whole thing is just so petty, though. It's a few replaceable art supplies your nieces and nephews were interested in. Instead of making a thing about you, you could have chalked it up to being a present from their uncle and took the time to show them the proper way to use them. Those few replaceable art supplies are going to cost hundreds of dollars to replace. OP, you're right that if you were to pay him the money in full, he'd try and replace your supplies with substandard quality crap. Non-artists never understand how appallingly expensive good quality artist materials are. It isn't your fault that he didn't know that and just gave his kids your supplies without your permission so he didn't have to entertain his own kids. Last night, I, female 46, had a glass of wine while watching a movie with my daughter, teen, and she asked me if she could try some. Normally, I'm strict with my children when it comes to alcoholic beverages, but I didn't think a little wine would hurt, so I poured her a glass. I told her that this would be a once-in-a-blue-moon exception. My husband, 48, on the other hand, was not okay with this. When he came into the living room and saw her with the wine in her hand, he lost his mind. He started shouting at me, asking why the heck I let her drink alcohol at her age, and said she could easily become addicted to it. I immediately felt bad and apologized, but my husband was still angry with me over this. I don't think he trusts me anymore. Am I the idiot for letting my teen daughter drink? Edit. His family actually does have a tragic past. When my husband was a little kid, his father drank too much and passed away on Christmas Eve night. Not the idiot. This is the perfect way to introduce your daughter to it. It's a safe, controlled environment with people, her parent, she trusts most in the world. You want her to learn healthy habits, and drinking in moderation with you right next to her removes a lot of the appeal of it. You're taking away any lingering mystique or stigma. If it's not forbidden or an adult thing that she's not allowed near or trusted with, then it loses a lot of the appeal. Binge drinking is a real issue, especially in college, and a lot of it stems from how we treat alcohol as something that's to be hidden. I'm going against the grain here, but you are the idiot, not because you introduced her to wine. Plenty of us would say that this is exactly the healthiest way to teach older kids to have a responsible relationship with alcohol before they leave home and are on their own. But she's underage, and you have a co-parent who this should have been discussed with. I think to deny them any input on a decision like serving a drink to your child for the first time was a mistake worth apologizing for. OP, you blindsided your partner and took an important decision without consulting their opinion. Also, it's not just illegal at 16 because governments are lame. There are biological reasons for why teenagers shouldn't be having it. Also, having a sip is way different from having a glass of wine. If you wanted your kid to just try it, you didn't have to offer a full glass. I would be livid if my husband did this. Did you see OP's edit that her husband's father had issues and died on Christmas Eve due to alcohol? This makes her even more awful. Obviously, parents should agree to something like this, but in this specific situation, it's far worse. This was an idiot move because this is clearly a new horizon for your child, and so it needs to be a joint parenting decision. Very obviously, this wasn't something you and your husband had discussed previously and already had a united stance on, so this was a parenting fail.